ownership of land will be granted to residents who have lived for 50 years and above in settler communities such as Zongos when the Land Bill 2018 is passed into law. At a forum on the proposed bill, Lands and Natural Resources Minister Peter Amewu expressed hope the myriad of challenges in land acquisition and use in Ghana will be dealt with when the bill is passed. Now, over the years, Ghana's land management system has been bedeviled with challenges, including multiple land sales leading to conflict and the use of land guards, with many losing their lives and property. This morning, we're having a conversation on this bill and its impact. Now, with me in the studio is Samuel Amagaibo. He is the Executive Secretary of the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association. They've been working closely with government on this particular bill since 2006. So let's find out from him. Good to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
First off, can you share with us, as someone who's been working with government and other stakeholders on this bill, what has caused the delay?
That's a difficult one for me, but I guess Parliament made us understand that they've been going through this for over, as you said, 2006. There was an attempt to try and pass it as of last year. Unfortunately, it fizzles out. It didn't work out, and so it has been a committee has been reconstituted to look into it. But you know how Parliament works. If you are not able to get through your bills within a particular set of a government time, then you have to restart it in the next government. And so if you are not able to finish it in the previous one, unfortunately they have to revisit it. So these are some of the challenges. It has gone through some consultants before. Later on it came to some lawyers also, and in both cases it was realized that the input that was coming from those meetings was not exhaustive enough, and so delayed why it should be presented at that time. And I think it has been broadly consulted for now, and I think it is the right time now.
Are you confident that we're going to have it laid before Parliament?
Yes, I am very confident. I mean, yesterday was a very fruitful discussion that we had. It was a stakeholder engagement by the Parliamentary Select Committee on Lands and Forestry on Land Bill, and it brought a whole lot of people together. The surveyors were there, Grader was there, even human rights activists were there, especially women's rights. When it comes to property, women and men always have issues to deal with. And so all of them were brought on board, and they made very useful contributions that I think is going to sort of mitigate against some of the problems that we've had. There was a national land policy, and that document has been with us since 1999.
Exactly.
And obviously, as we have been trying to implement it, we have identified certain gaps that needs to be filled up.
Okay.
So this as
now, you work closely in land acquisition as a real estate developer. Tell us how this delay has affected your work.
The problem is, for example, a real estate developer needs land as his number one commodity to start with. And so if you are having challenges with, for example, registration and certain unclear issues with the land, how to go about it, demarcations, stool lands, family lands, government lands, and if you have tried to acquire land before, you'll bear with me that it's a complete hassle. The bureaucracies in the registration, a lot of things are not right, and so it sets the ball already wrong for you as a developer if you want to go to investment. And because of this, it has stifled investment into especially real estate. I'll give you a typical example. Look at a situation where a real estate developer has acquired land, has gone to the point of even procuring title. And when he has secured funding to start a project, he is served with an injunction not to go onto the land. The bank does not care about your litigation issues, and so the interest will be taken from the day that your loan is approved. Then you go to court for several years. I was handling a case that has been on for 15 years, and as I speak to you now, it has not been sorted out. And so if you go through litigations for projects of this nature, obviously it adds on to your cost. This unnecessary land guard engagement and all this things. It's a problem for real estate developers.
So what are your expectations? We're being told the land minister is optimistic that this will be late. And when it happens, he hopes that it will deal with all these challenges that you're mentioning. But as a real estate developer, what are your expectations?
Our expectations are that we have already identified a lot of the bottlenecks. And so I expect that this bill will address most of these problems, put in the necessary mitigation measures, and make it possible for us to either resolve or completely eradicate these problems in land administration in general.
So, really, earlier you mentioned the 1999 National Land Policy. You have stated that there are some changes in this. Do you expect a difference? Do you expect to see some change? Because someone may argue, what real difference if we had an existing policy? What difference would a law make anyway?
It will make a lot of difference because we have, like I said, we have identified certain problems which was difficult for us to work with the policy. And so this will be able to identify them and then prescribe some solutions for them. And I can take you through a few of the issues that came up yesterday, for example. Most people take for granted when they have litigations on their land and there's a court judgment, they fail to register the court judgment. Okay, and if you don't register the court judgment and somebody goes to do a land search, for example, the documents that or the history of land ownership that will be served you will not include the judgment. So you may not know that there have been litigation on that land, and you may also not know what the court finally said. And somebody may take advantage of you if he doesn't register the judgment. Okay,
Mr. McGregor, I'll have you hold on. I'll come back to you shortly. I've been joined by the chairman of Parliament Select Committee on Lands and Forestry, Francis Menu Adabo, via phone. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning, sir.
Thank you, too.
Now, in 2016, we were told by the technical director at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Suleimana Mahama, that a land bill was expected to be approved by September that year. You were a member of that committee at the time. Do we know what caused the delay?
Well, thank you very much. The land bill, in actual fact, we worked on it, and it was supposed to be approved last year. Getting to September there, we were supposed to lay it in Parliament. But you know, from September 2016, it was during the heat of the election. And when you consider most of the clauses in the bill, people are so interested. So it didn't get the number that we needed to that debate on the floor. That's why we couldn't finish. We were almost close to completing the whole process.
So what's the guarantee? Sorry, I missed out at a point. The line is a bit shaky. You were saying that there were no numbers in the House, and so you couldn't debate.
Oh, my God. Hello?
Hello. I can hear you, Mr. Adabo. We lost you at the point where... Hello, Mr. Adabo. Can you hear me now, please?
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Adabo.
Hello?
Well, what's the guarantee the land bill will be laid this time? Well, we seem to be having a challenge with the line. That we'll try and reach Mr. Adabo on the line again and get his thoughts. He's actually the chairman of Parliament Select Committee on Lands and Forestry. Now, at the time, 2016, the time you're referring to, he was a member, and so he's been in this process for some time and will help us with some answers. But you were talking about some new additions to the bill.
It was identified that this was a gap, and so now this bill seeks to make provision and streamline how this will be done.
That's the issue of court registration.
Yes, I mean, when there's any dispute and it has been settled, what did the court say? It needs to be registered in the land administration. This is one of the areas. Then, with us as developers, we do a lot of conveyances, meaning that we transfer ownership from one person to the other. And there's this issue about non-Ghanaians, per the law, can only own properties in Ghana for up to, say, 50 years, and Ghanaians can own up to 100 years. Look at a situation where a Ghanaian is married to a foreigner, and they have a common interest. So how does, the land registration take care of a situation like this? I think in the past, it was not clearly spelled out, and so we've had challenges on how to draft those conveyances. I guess this bill seeks to address that kind of a problem. And then also, everybody goes to a lawyer when you want to buy land, for you to get the document prepared. And as it is now, the law makes it mandatory that it has to be done by a legal practitioner.
Sorry, I have to cut in again. We have Mr. Adabo on the line. Hello. I was asking what the guarantee is that the land bill will be laid this time around.
In fact, after the Civil Forum yesterday, we were supposed to go to Cape Coast today and to start the clause-by-clause consideration tomorrow. But, you know, we have been recalled to Parliament on Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
So we will reschedule the meeting about 2 weeks' time. But when we go stay in Cape Coast, possibly we finish in about 4 days.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll write a report and send it to Parliament when we resume. So it is hoped that when we go back to Parliament, once starting in 2018, by 2019 we should finish, so that it's not getting election year. That's why we have started a bit earlier this time.
Now, what do you think the difference will be, or the difference, what's the difference this bill will make? Because, well, I'm made to believe it's a consolidated form of the National Land Policy that came into effect in 1999.
I know my colleague and my senior is with you now. What we are expecting from this bill is that at the end of the day, we're getting a law that will help people to register their land easily. And we're getting a law that will help landowners to also know the boundaries of their plots. And then we are expecting a new land policy or a new law, land bill, outcome law, that will help and give confidence when they are investing in the land. We expect a law. I think when we go to Cape Coast, the stakeholders will be there to also judge with us, and then we'll come up with the best.
Now, how do you hope to enforce this, hopefully, when the law is passed?
How do we
hope to enforce?
Enforcement of the law is another thing. Most laws putting together, the laws are already there. How to enforce them is the problem. Now that we put all of them together, we hope we will try and enforce. I don't know how to promise this time on this for nothing. When it comes out, we'll try to enforce it.
Thank you for your time this morning. That was Francis Meno Adabo, Chairman of Parliament Select Committee on Lands and Forestry, talking about the Land Bill 2018. He tells us they hope to send it to Parliament when it resumes. So your final words, sir, really in all of this, as a real estate developer, what would you like to see in the next 5 years?
I think you asked the chairman a very important question that has to do with the law and enforcement. And he explained to you, the law is separate. And after the law has been enacted and it's come into force, the most important and the crucial part is the enforcement. We have very beautiful laws on land already, which is not even working because of lack of enforcement. So I would just say that I hope that when the law is fully passed, the content will be fully adhered to and enforcement will be strictly enforced by the agencies that will be in charge of that.
Thank you very much for your time. Mr. Amega Ibo is Executive Secretary of the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, GREDA. We'll take a quick breather here on Joy News Desk. When we come back, we'll bring you more. Do stay.